the MVP, which, I don't know, you hear people talk about it. And a lot of people, some people with votes even, make it sound like this race is over. And for the longest time, I kind of agreed. I just felt like the Thunder are going to win 65 plus games. Shai's having one of the most dominant scoring seasons we've ever seen from a guard. And, that's just what an MVP encapsulates. Best player on the best team, or at least best player on one of the best teams. This is what the award's all about. So, what's there to talk about? I started to look into stuff a little bit over the past weekend. I was like, damn. I mean, I knew Jokic was having a great season, but like, damn. Then I started to do, last night I did some very deep diving. Did some deep diving into some stats, into the numbers, the historic connotations of some of these things, the historic stats. Folks, I don't know. I mean, let's look at the odds, right? First and foremost, let's say, is there somebody else creeping up? No, there's not a third. This is a two-person race through and through. There's really not an argument for a third. SGA is minus 440 right now, which is kind of crazy. Jokic plus 300. Then you have Tatum, Giannis, and LeBron all tied with plus 50,000. So, I mean, what would have to happen for either of those three to win it? I mean, are Jokic and Shai already past the 65 game threshold? No, it'd have to be, and I'm knocking on wood right now, but it'd have to be season-ending injuries for both Jokic and Shai at the same exact time. So if you're betting on one of these three, you're betting on that. Which we don't even want to put that energy out into the world, but that is what it is. But it is a two-horse race here. Last year was a legitimate three-horse race. Of course, I want to say before we get into this, because I know what some of you guys are going to say in the chat, and I just want to say right now, last year I did a whole 40-minute video. I thought Luka Doncic should have won the MVP. So don't do the whole, last year, I know. I agree with you, okay? I agree with you. I thought Luka should have won the MVP last year. I still feel that way very strongly, all right? So let's just get that out the way right now, because this year's a completely different year. Completely different seasons from both of these guys. The context is completely different. So I don't want to do like the back and forth comparison. I'm knocking on plastic, which cancels out your wood knocks. All right, that's fair. So let's start with Jokic. The season that Jokic is having. Because I feel like it's important to start with him, because some people feel as though this race is over. I think this race is very far from over. And I think it should go down to the end of the season. And I think it should be talked about daily now. Like, I don't, explain this to me, right? We do the MVP talk all year long. Literally, the moment the fucking season starts, we do the MVP discussion. The moment the season starts, we're talking MVP. And now it's reached a point where, oh my God, this race is crazy. This race is actually insane. Now, most people are like, yeah, it's over. It's like, no, man, this is the time. Now we should be talking about this. Now we should spend every day talking about this. Jokic, counting stats, absurd. 29, 13, 10.5 per game. That would make him the third player ever, assuming he holds those averages, which I'm assuming he will. He'll be the third player ever to average a triple-double over the course of a season. It'll be the sixth time ever that somebody has done that. Oscar Robertson obviously did it once. Russell Westbrook did it 4 times. Isn't that shit crazy? It's crazy that Russ did that 4 times. And then you have Nikola Jokic, which, okay, truthfully, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I already thought he averaged a triple-double. For some reason in my brain, I thought he's already averaged a triple-double in a season, but he's never averaged 10 assists. So that makes sense. 10.5 assists. It'll be the second most efficient triple-double season ever relative to the league average true shooting percentage. By true shooting percentage, it would be the most efficient triple-double season ever. But Oscar Robertson, relative to league average, had a 116 true shooting plus. I love that stat. I remember asking about that stat recently. I was like, they should have a stat Like baseball has an OPS plus where it compares you to league average. They should do that, like a true shooting plus, and they have it. So they listen to me. I feel like I'm responsible for that. Jokic has a 115 true shooting plus. So close. Because you go back in time and you look at like these historic seasons. You look at Oscar Robertson, like 56% true shooting. Like, oh, that's not very good. But at the time, that was really good. It's important to remember that in context. He'll be the first center ever to average 10 assists in a game. A player averaging 28 points per game has happened 176 times over the course of NBA history. This would be the third most efficient 28 point per game season in the history of the league, trailing only 2016 Stephen Curry, who unanimous MVP, by the way, and 1988 Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley's career is absolutely nuts, guys. Can we do a tiny little detour here? Charles Barkley, fucking crazy. I mean, obviously, MVP, Hall of Famer, top 50, top whatever player of all time. Was named to the top 50 team, top 75 team. Just an absurd player. 23 points per game, 14 and a half rebounds in a season, 28 points per game. Led the league in true shooting percentage that year. 28 points per game, leading the league in true shooting. I mean, just crazy career he had. Yeah, the rebounding numbers are crazy because he's 6'6". Just an insane career. And I know we all know that Charles Barkley was a great basketball player, but I feel like over time, as he's just becoming more and more, we've experienced Charles Barkley has been in our lives more as a commentator. I feel like we don't fully appreciate just how insanely good he was, if that makes sense. He's shooting 43% from three on 4.5 attempts a game. This would be the third most efficient three-point season by a center, attempting 3 or more threes per game ever, trailing only 2023 Al Horford. And 2010 played for the Phoenix Suns. Can you guys guess? Tyler with the 499. Jokic has never beaten a 50-win team in the playoffs. What does that got to do with the MVP? 2010 center for the Phoenix Suns, Channing Frye. How about that? So just an unbelievably efficient season from Jokic. 56 points created per game. That's the most in the NBA. Last year, Luka had 59, which was the most ever. Should have won the MVP, man. He really should have. Let's dive into some of the on-off stuff because it is fucking crazy. It really is. The Nuggets offense is 24 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the floor. 24 points. That is the biggest swing in cleaning the glass history, which goes back to 2003, 2004 seasons. So 21 seasons. Nobody's even really come close to that. The team is 23 points per 100 possessions better when Jokic is on the court. This is the same as last year. For Jokic, a couple of seasons ago, the Nuggets were 24 points per 100 possessions better when he was on the court. Draymond in 2016. The Warriors were 25.5 points per 100 possessions better when he was on the floor. But other than that, one of the biggest swings in the history of the league. The Nuggets, and here's the thing, because I want to start here. Because this is, and I use this as an argument against Jokic last year. The swings, the on-off swings, some of the on-off numbers are a little bit boosted by the fact that Jokic plays with all the starters. Somebody in the chat just pointed that out. 5-man lineups. The Nuggets play with the 5 starters 35% of the time, which is the second most in the NBA. And interestingly enough, that's the lowest number for the Nuggets since the 2018-2019 season, right? Second most. Here's the thing, though, right? I get that. That does kind of inflate the on-off numbers a little bit. But the thing working in Jokic's favor is the fact that they are dominant when he's on the court. Like, it would be different if the team was absolutely dog shit when he was off, and when he was on, they were just like, okay. Right? But they are dominant when he's on the floor. They have an 11.7 net rating when they have 5 starters on the floor. That is second behind only the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are having a historic offseason, or historic regular season. We mentioned the on-off swing offensively for Jokic. The Nuggets have a 128 offensive rating when he is on the floor, a 107 offensive rating when he is off the floor. Just for a frame of reference, the Cavaliers, the best offense in the NBA, have a 123 offensive rating. The Nuggets have a 128 offensive rating when Jokic is on the floor. The Charlotte Hornets have a 107 offensive rating, 29th in the NBA, second to last. The Nuggets have a 107 offensive rating when he is off. So we're talking the difference between a historically great offense versus a bad offense when Jokic is on the court versus when he's off. All right, whatever. That's kind of to be expected. Fine. Jokic, 7.8 offensive estimated plus minus EPM. It's my favorite stat, EPM, which is the most in the NBA. It's the highest, second highest since 2002, with 2016 Steph at 8.8. And there's 20 games or so left? (2019 Harden? No, I don't think so. I did this yesterday. What was 2018 Harden? 2019 Harden. When Jokic is off the court, we are ass. Oh, I got to fucking log into all these different things, man. Good Lord. But anyways, I was saying with 20 or so games left, he could catch up to Steph. (2019) James Harden. No, 7.7. I'm looking at it right now. All right, sorry we got derailed there. Go to actual. I'm looking at actual. I said offensive EPM, guys. Offensive EPM. He has a 9 point. James Harden had a 9.4 EPM that year. I said offensive EPM. Harden had 7.7. Jokic is at 7.8 right now. Offensive EPM. Some of his notable games. 31, 21, 22 against the Phoenix Suns. The first 30-20-20 game in the history of the NBA. Also the most assists ever in a game by a center. Had a triple-double at halftime, had another triple-double in the second half. Crazy-ass game. 35, 18, and 8 versus the Oklahoma City Thunder on 15 of 20 shooting. It was the most efficient 35, 15, and 8 game in history. 35, 22, and 17 versus Sacramento Kings in January, which was the first 30-20-15 game in 57 years. Of course, 31, 21, and 22 against the Suns a couple of months later. The only time that's ever happened in the history of the league. And I think part of what makes his season and him being so valuable is the fact that, this is not a great Nuggets team outside of him, especially the way that their season has gone. It's a good team, don't get me wrong, but the way the season has gone, they're currently the 2 seed, 42 and 23. Like, they're a great basketball team. Jamal Murray graded out as a league average player until like the turn of the new year, right? Aaron Gordon has played 38 games. There's 7 points per 100 possessions better when he plays. Very important for their team. He's played 38 games, and just even then has not looked like Aaron Gordon. Just been dealing with this lingering calf injury this whole season. And around the same time that Jamal Murray turned it around, MPJ turned into a pumpkin for a month. So he's doing a lot with, I wouldn't say little, because it's still a pretty decent team. Like Christian Brown's had a fantastic season. Russ, nobody expected this out of Russell Westbrook. But he's doing a lot with not as much as the other guy, which is how these arguments go. Now, the case against Jokic would be, defensively, it ain't good. He's not a good defensive player at all. 0.5 defensive estimated plus minus. That's the lowest of his career. And it would be the lowest for an MVP since 2011 Derrick Rose. The Nuggets have a bottom 10 defense when Jokic is on the court. So that would be your argument, is that he's just not a good defensive player. And there's just really no counter argument to that. He's not a good defensive player. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my potential fellow Nuggets fans in the chat. He's just not a good defensive player. All right. But the thing is offensively, he's having quite possibly, and maybe, the best offensive season we've ever seen. It is entirely possible this is the greatest offensive season we have ever seen a player have. The absurd efficiency, it's just on another level. He's reached a point in his career where it's just, I've said this before with Luka, where it's like, how do players get better? It's like, they don't like necessarily add too many things to their game. They just hone in, right? It's just mistakes become fewer and fewer and fewer. And you might not like notice it all that much watching. Like the change doesn't seem that crazy, but it is the gradual ascent to where you reach a point where now it feels like Jokic is just a perfect basketball machine on offense. It's just like he's a perfect basketball machine offensively. It's just like there's nothing wrong. It's crazy. The season he's having is fucking nuts. Nuts. Like I sitting doing it, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe the season Jokic is having. Like I knew it was great. I knew it was fantastic. I kind of thought, and admittedly, like to me on Twitter especially, Nuggets fans doing the MVP stuff, kind of, it's in one ear, not the other. I have to be honest, just because they've done it for so long, and some of the stats they concoct, I don't even know what the fuck I'm looking at, right? Like kitchen sink, drip, droop, gloop, group. It's like, what are these stats, man? Like, what the hell am I looking at? They're just looking, like, Jokic's best argument, ironically enough, because he is a spreadsheet guy, and it is, look at the spreadsheet. His best argument is just watch the fucking games. Just watch the games. Watch how good this guy is. He's having the second best offensive season in the last 2 years. He's got a good case for the best offensive season of all time right now. Advanced stats are bullshit. Bottom line, the impact should lead to more wins overall than OKC has. Andy Bailey has been a disaster for Jokic's legacy. No, Andy Bailey's cool, but like, yes, the stat sheet stuff or the spreadsheet stuff, yeah, it's annoying. It is annoying. It is. Now I say all of that to say this. I still don't know if I would pick him over Shai. So of course the Shai argument. The Thunder are 53-12. They're going to probably finish, I don't know, 65 or so wins would probably be where they finish at in a very good, tough, kind of disappointing, but a tough Western Conference. To win that many games is crazy. SGA argument without mentioning team record falls apart immediately. No, it does not. No, it does not. Leads the league in scoring, 32 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 64% true shooting. Just an absurdly efficient scoring season from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 7th most efficient 30-point per game season ever. And most of the guys that he's trailing are either bigs, Giannis is on that list ahead of him, or 3-point shooting gods like Steph Curry and Damian Lillard is ahead of him on that list as well. Top 2 in steals per game. I don't give a fuck about steals per game. I do not at all. Now, that being said, Shai's second in steals per game. No, I'm sorry. I don't care about steals. I don't think that's the best representation of defensive players. It isn't. It's not to say steals aren't important. Anyways, Shai. Scoring at that efficiency while not being like a knockdown three-point shooter for a guard is absolutely crazy. I mean, it is insane. You know, he's 37% from three. I mean, which is good. Don't get me wrong. So, did you know the 3 MVP years with the fewest free throws per game in NBA history are all held by Jokic? It's pretty interesting. Point guard who can't get 7 assists per game. We'll talk about that here in a second. And before you guys say anything else, SGA, 24.7 points per game without free throws. That is the most in the NBA. All right? So take it easy on my guy. Leads the league in scoring without free throws. Do you consider him stat padding during garbage time? Doesn't he lead the league in scoring through three quarters by like a huge margin? The Thunder have not done a lot of stat padding this year. I don't think that's a good argument at all. He does have 4 50-point games this season, which is the most in the NBA. All 4 of them are in the last 20 games. He has scored 20 or more in every single game this season, but one singular game. Leads the league in 40-point games, leads the league in 30-point games. He's been the best isolation player in the league so far this season. 76 points over expectation in isolation. That's the best in the league. I like that stat. Why do I like that stat? It takes into account how often are you isolating and how efficient are you at it. Which doesn't matter. Like, there are guys who are efficient in isolation but do it once a game, twice a game. And it's just like, You know, Shai does it a lot. He's very good at it. He's also the best in terms of points over expectation as a pick and roll ball handler. He has solved the game offensively as a guard. When he gets to the rim, he's finishing or going to the free throw line. When he gets to his spot around the free throw line, his pull-up is absurd. It is insane how fast he rises up. His deacceleration is legitimately legendary. Legendary. How fast he rises up. He has a plus 16.9 net rating, which is the highest in the NBA. Now, I think one of the arguments against Shai is that, well, his team's still good without him, which is true. I think the Thunder net rating without him is around 5, which is would still be a good team in the Western Conference. He has a 10.5 point on-off swing. So what makes him valuable? Because I've seen people argue, well, like, can he be the most valuable player if his team is still good without him? His team goes from being just a solid team, right? A solid team, to a legitimately historically good regular season team. They go from a solid team to a historically great team when he's on the court. And these numbers right here are from Carson Breber. These stats are crazy. SGA's numbers when some of his guys are off the court. SGA on the floor with no Chet, plus 20 net rating. SGA on the floor with no J-Dub, plus 25 net rating. SGA with no Isaiah Hartenstein, plus 20. SGA with no Chet or J-Dub, plus 28. SGA with no Chet or Hartenstein, plus 22. SGA with no J-Dub or iHart, plus 27. So make no mistake about it. The Thunder are a mid-60 win team, and that's because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Through and through. Through and through. They are historically great. A historically great team because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He makes them go. Some of his big games: 45 points, 9 assists, 5 steals, 2 blocks on 13 of 21 shooting against the Clippers. 45, 7, and 8 on 15 of 22 shooting against the Pacers. 50 points, 62% shooting versus the Suns. I mean, it's absurd what he does. And the argument against him would be, well, he's not the playmaker that Jokic is, and that's true. I mean, I don't know if there's been a player in the history of the league who's the playmaker that Jokic is. He's still a good playmaker. Don't get me wrong. But what's required out of him isn't the same as a guy like Jokic. Their teams play differently. My opinion, SGA's strongest point is his amazingly accurate mid-range. I mean, SGA's strongest point is that he has become literally unsolvable as an offensive player. That's what it is. It's the stage that Luka reached last year as well, where it's just you cannot defensively do anything against this guy. He's shooting from three-point land. He is literally unstoppable in the mid-range. Once he gets to a spot, it's game over. Like, you just have to pray he misses. Once he gets to a spot, it's done. Teams are starting to double him at half court. Yeah, that is the next step in the progression. Is teams are going to start to trap him at half court and double him at half court and force anyone else on the Thunder to do anything. He's the best mid-range shooter in the league by a far margin. I mean, he's gonna finish his career as one of the best mid-range guys to ever play the sport. Luka last year had a more productive year. Guys, I already said I'm not doing the Luka last year stuff because I said Luka should have won the MVP last year. So. And then the argument, him versus Jokic, Shai is a much better defender. I said Jokic is not a good defender, and it is pretty detrimental to your team when your center's not a good defender. Like that much is true. I'm sorry to say it. My potential fellow Nuggets fans in the chat. I'm sorry to say it. And also my potential fellow Thunder fans in the chat. The Shai's playmaking is not at the level of Jokic's. I mean, that goes without saying. Who is SGA guarding? It doesn't really matter to me. SGA is a good defensive player. He's not a weakness on the court. Do they hide him at times defensively so he doesn't have to exert that much energy? Sure. Sometimes is he guarding the fourth best player because the Thunder can roll out defense lineups that have somebody who's going to be on the all defensive team this year in J-Dub, Alex Caruso, who's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, Cason Wallace, who's one of the better perimeter defenders in the league. Yeah. Shai is black. Give him MVP. All right. Goodbye. Look at the Nuggets ratings with Jokic. Without him, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, but the Thunder have a crazy on-off split as well when Jokic is on the court, or Shai's on the court versus when he's off. SGA's D is hyped up way too much, though. I mean, getting Defensive Player of the Year votes and stuff like that, yeah, that's probably excessive for sure, but he's a good defender. He's a good defender, man. But is Shai at least the league average for point? Genuinely asking because I don't watch him. Shai's a good playmaker. Like, legitimately a good playmaker. I mean, the thing is, Jokic is an all-time great generational playmaker. But SGA is like an all-time great generational scorer. I mean, it is insane what he does. So, I don't know. This is insane how close this is to me. This is absolutely insane how close this is to me. We'll see how it goes over the next month. To me, it feels like these odds, there's no way these odds represent how close this race is. Like, if I were a betting man, which I'm not, I would definitely sprinkle some money on Jokic right now. Not insane because SGA is going to win. I think if I had to guess right now, I'd say SGA is going to win. I think there's some voter fatigue stuff with Jokic, which is fucking lame. And I think once that argument gets thrown out there, once the voter fatigue argument becomes like the big go-to argument, maybe your argument's not as solid as you thought. Once we start going to the voter fatigue side of things. Who went to the finals again, Luka or Shai? Guys, I'm sorry to tell you, Luka's not in this. I don't know if you guys thought Luka would be coming up soon. Luka's not in this conversation. Okay? So I don't know why I'm constantly bringing him up. Nuggets fans championing the exact opposite position as last year's, both hilarious and off-putting. That is true. It is very similar. Now, to Nuggets fans' defense, my thing with Jokic last year was, fuck all of these stupid ass advanced metrics. The number one argument for Jokic is just watch the games. Watch this guy play every night. Watch these guys play every night. Luka's disqualified for not reaching number. Yeah, Luka cannot win MVP, which is why I'm saying, like, I don't know why. I think it's going to be close. And I think it's going to end up being closer than this odds-wise. I do. Watch Nick Wright's opinion on goalpost moving for Jokic MVP. His opinion is factually correct. I mean, the thing is, man, Jokic is having an unbelievable season. Luka isn't in the conversation as these guys anymore. It's okay to admit. I mean, if we're just going based off the play we've seen this season, yeah, Luka has not been close to Jokic or Shai this season. Last year, Luka was absolutely, in my opinion, the MVP of the league. Luka won't ever be healthy? Well, that's a different conversation. If you were giving a vote, who will you vote, bias aside? I would take my vote down to the last day of the season. If I had to vote right now, man. If I just had to pick one right now, as tough as it is, I think I would go Shai. I do. I think I would go Shai just because, again, they're going to win 65 plus games probably. He's having one of the most insane scoring seasons we've seen from a guard, and he elevates their team from being good to being historically great. And I do feel like if I just had to do one weakness for each guy, the Jokic defensive stuff is the biggest weakness for me. But then I think about it more and I'm like, all right, well, if I were to just sit down and watch Jokic, Shai, who would I think the best player is? I would think Jokic is the best player. Jokic is the best player in the league. So then it goes back to, well, if it's close, and it's not like the Nuggets are the 4 seed, the 5 seed, the 6 seed. The Nuggets are the 2 seed, right? The Nuggets are the 2nd seed. If it's that close, would it be stupid to not just say, well, this guy's the best player in the league, so I'm just going to give it to him? That's what I'm saying. It's so close. Kind of a crazy take, bro. What is? What's crazy? Jokic made Russ better? That's true. That is true. I mean, both of these guys are having absurdly great seasons. Both these guys are having great seasons. Both these guys are very worthy MVP candidates. Isn't it silly to compare seeding versus game difference? No, I get what you're saying. But the Thunder as a team are much better than the Nuggets. I get what you're saying. But I'm saying, like, kind of historically speaking, in voters' minds, they see that 4, 5, 6 seed. It becomes a lot more difficult for them to. And if it's close, people will look at that and just be like, well, this guy's the 1 seed. Nuggets could slide to 4 or 5-2. That's true. Which is why I'm saying this. Like in a month, like I wouldn't say this race is over at all. We changed the rule for MVP literally only for Jokic. 6 seed MVP that got swept. Team award MVP and analytics MVPs won every single type of MVP possible. I mean, Jokic has been an all-time great player. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. If the Mavs traded Luka for Shai, would you have been happy with that? Like, instead of what they did? Yeah, I'd be very happy. Like, instead of the trade they did, of course, I'd be very happy with that. Locked On Nuggets host doesn't even believe in the Nuggets. Well, doing a regular season MVP thing is different than, I think this team can win a championship this year, especially when there's 3 like juggernaut teams. And here's the thing. Jokic, so if we're gonna do the Nuggets fans are hypocrites. A lot of the arguments I had for Luka last year are in Jokic's favor this year. So if I'm just being, if I'm just, on the other hand, if I'm just staying true to that, you think if Luka won MVP last year, it delays the trade from happening? I don't know. I really don't. Goalpost switching for Jokic then? Well, the goalposts move every year. Like every year the goalposts change. That's just the context of the season changes every single year. So like the MVP race is different every single season because there's different things at play, there's different players, there's different teams involved. So it is different every single year. The SGA greater than Luka take is so dumb because SGA has only won one playoff series versus Zion-less Pelicans. I mean, I think we're just saying Shai's been better than Luka this year in the regular season. That's really not that's not like, can't really argue that. But yeah, I mean, just in terms of career-wise, of course, Luka's been better. Will an American win MVP in the next 5 years, including this year? Cade, maybe. I would love Cade to win an MVP. That would be awesome. I don't know. Like Tatum, I don't think can ever have the season, you know? Like we know the Celtics will be good. I just don't think Tatum will ever have the season where it's just like, my God, this guy's the best player in the league. Like in order to win MVP is not always the best player in the league award. We know that. But you have to be like, there has to be an argument for you. Like you have to be able to maybe make the argument. I don't know if you can ever get there with Tatum. LeBron being fifth in MVP voting or odds is just fucking crazy, man. It's insane. But yeah, you look at the league. I don't know, man. Tatum would have to be the logical choice. Maybe Anthony Davis next year. I don't know, man. Luka's 27, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and he's trash. Nobody said Luka's trash. Anthony Edwards, maybe. I don't know if Ja will ever play enough games is the problem. Anthony Edwards, it's really between Anthony Edwards and Tatum would be my guess. I would love for Cade to get into that mix. Can the Pistons be good enough? They're good this year, but you do have to be. You either have to have like a historically all-time great season, which is it in there for Cade? I'm not entirely sure. Or your team has to be dominant. I don't know. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell is going to ever be good enough. Great player, fantastic player. I don't know if he'll ever be good enough. Flag, I don't know if that's his game. From everything I've seen about Flag, is it more accurate to say Flag is maybe like an all-NBA guy here and there, but an all-defensive team guy and like an incredible second, third guy on your team? Am I wrong in saying that? Flag will be an elite number 2? Dylan Harper on the Mavericks? Flag is basically an elite dirty work wing. Brunson, if the Knicks get it right around him, maybe. Again, can Brunson have the season where it's like, this guy might be the best player in the league, guys? I don't know, man. It's just, I look at it, it's Shai's 26. Luka's 26. He's healthy next year. He'll be in the mix again. Jokic is 29. Giannis is 30. Wemby is 21. I mean, it's just kind of hard to imagine. Yeah. Don't count out Giannis for sure. Jokic is 30. Okay, I think this is like start of the season age, maybe. Get ready to learn Christian Anderson at pick 13, Texas Tech. Hell yeah, baby. I got Iowa State, Cincinnati on the screen right now. Anyways, that's the MVP race. I just wanted to highlight how close it is, man. Both these guys are having such great seasons. And, man, It's way closer than I thought. I really did think it was Shai through and through. Cade and Paolo have the best case for MVP if they can get their team for top seed and be competitive in the next 5 years. American-born, I would say Cade, Anthony Edwards and Tatum would be my two most likely guys. Sixth man of the year, I mean, it's gonna be Pritchard. Malik Beasley's having a crazy season. I think Ty Jerome should maybe be a little bit higher on these odds too, but it's not that close in my opinion. Put it this way, if you swap the players on their teams, which team would do better? I don't like looking at it that way, honestly. Funny thing is I don't even think Jokic cares or even plays for MVP. Nuggets would be asking OKC would be a 70-win team. OKC would have like no guard creators. Like those teams would just be weird. The Nuggets would have zero center, and the Thunder would have no guard creators at all. Like that's just a silly way to look at it, in my opinion. Nuggets are asked when Jokic sits. Look at the numbers. No, we talked about the numbers. Let's like look at all the other awards. Kenny Atkinson's running away with Coach of the Year. Jalen Brunson, Clutch Player of the Year. Yeah, sounds right to me. Cade Cunningham, Most Improved. So I've been anti top picks win Most Improved Player. I've been anti that. I've been against that. Just doesn't make sense to me, really. I think Cade could be an exception here. Just because he has made that, he's made like a very sizable leap. So I understand this one. Dyson Daniels would be, and Christian Brown are also great. Like I think in a world where you just say, hey, the rules for Most Improved, you can't be like a top 3 pick. Like you like all if you do some rules like that, like Dyson Daniels and Christian Brown, I think are great options. I would pick Christian Brown over Dyson Daniels personally. Defensive Player of the Year is interesting. So Mobley's minus 250 with Dyson Daniels second. Dyson Daniels winning Defensive Player of the Year would be awesome. See, okay, this is where Shai sixth. Come on. Norman Powell's right there for him, Most Improved. So the reason why I would go Christian Brown over Dyson Daniels is if you look at Dyson Daniels' stats, offensively at least, he just does look like a much more confident player. Like the eyeball test says that he's much improved. That goes without being said. But, you know, numbers-wise and rate-wise, that was a pretty big increase. What the fuck was I looking at then? Never mind. Disregard everything that I said. Disregard everything that I just said. The fact they don't have Dinwiddie up there is disrespectful. For Most Improved, yeah, I agreed. Rookie of the Year looks like Stephon Castle's running away with it. I think that's about right. It is a very, very weak Rookie of the Year race. Double down like Shaq? Yeah, I should. No, SGA is a good defender. Like he is. SGA is a legitimately good defender. He's not top 6. Like J-Dub should have a higher odds than him. Truthfully. Look at Zubats. Wells should win it. I think Wells has a good case. I do think I watched Stephon Castle and he just embodies Rookie of the Year to me. He looks like the most impressive rookie. I saw that Spurs fan on Twitter begging for flag like they'd already have Wemby and Castle. I think he was trolling. I saw that too. It was like, could the NBA help out the Spurs for once and give us Cooper flag? Anyways, man. Shout out to both these guys, Shai and Jokic. Incredible. Also, they could be the guys I'm rooting for in the play. We'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. Very, very easily could be the guys that I'm rooting for.